The 1970s were a groundbreaking era in music, where artists dared to push boundaries and challenge the norms. This decade saw some of the most talented singers use their voices not just for entertainment, but to make powerful statements. Yet, with their boldness came significant backlash. Many of these iconic musicians found themselves banned or censored for their provocative performances and politically charged lyrics. What happens when music becomes too influential for the establishment to handle? Today, we're counting down the top 15 controversial banned singers of the 1970s. From provocative performances to politically charged lyrics, these artists didn't just make music, they made statements that resonated and rattled the status quo. At number 15, we have David Bowie, a true pioneer in both music and fashion. Bowie wasn't just a singer, he was an artist who constantly reinvented himself, pushing the boundaries of what was expected in the music industry. His unique style, featuring flamboyant costumes and bold makeup, made him a fashion icon and inspired countless artists to express themselves freely. But Bowie's influence didn't stop at fashion. His music often challenged traditional gender norms and societal expectations. Songs like Rebel Rebel and Fashion featured lyrics and themes that were ahead of their time, promoting individuality and self-expression. This androgynous persona and his willingness to explore unconventional topics in his music didn't sit well with some conservative groups. As a result, Bowie faced backlash and censorship in various regions. Certain performances were met with protests, and some of his albums were banned for their provocative content. In parts of Eastern Europe, authorities restricted his shows due to concerns over his androgynous image. And some radio stations in southern United States removed his tracks from playlists. Despite the opposition, Bowie's fearless approach to his art solidified his legacy as a trailblazer who used his platform to challenge the status quo and inspire change. Which David Bowie era or performance left the biggest mark on you? Alice Cooper. Our next highlight is Alice Cooper, a true showman who revolutionized rock with horror theatrics. Known for shocking makeup, wild costumes, and dramatic stage sets, he transformed concerts into unforgettable spectacles. By blending music with elements of horror, Cooper created a persona that was both fascinating and intimidating. Alice Cooper's performances were unlike anything audiences had ever seen before. He would use props like guillotines, fake blood, and snakes, which often raised eyebrows and stirred controversy. These acts were seen by some as glorifying violence and the occult, leading to criticism from conservative groups and parents. Because of his provocative style, Cooper faced numerous protests and bans. Some venues refused to host his shows, and certain performances were cancelled due to public outcry. In the UK, local councils barred him from performing in multiple cities, and parent-teacher associations rallied to keep his concerts away from community arenas. Undeterred by the backlash, Alice Cooper's bold approach not only pushed the boundaries of live performance, but also cleaned the way for future artists to express themselves without fear. Surprised by the extremes of Alice Cooper's stagecraft, his fearless creativity paved the way for future legends. Let's see who carried that torch next. Iggy Pop emerges as the godfather of punk. Renowned for his raw energy and unpredictable onstage behavior, he pushed the limits of live performance. His rebellious spirit and boundary-breaking antics fascinated audiences and challenged conservative listeners alike. Iggy Pop's shows were intense and raw, featuring wild antics like smashing instruments and even risky acts that blurred the line between performance and chaos. His lyrics often touched on themes of rebellion, freedom, and raw human emotion, challenging traditional norms of music and behavior. This fearless approach brought Iggy under the scrutiny of authorities and venue owners alike. Some clubs banned him for fear of inciting disturbance, and his concerts were occasionally canceled due to safety concerns. During one European tour, local governments in Germany and Sweden issued temporary restrictions on his concerts, labeling them too dangerous for public order. Even with those setbacks, Iggy Pop's influence on punk rock and his legacy as an icon of counterculture remain unshaken, inspiring generations of musicians to break boundaries. Can you imagine today's music without that rebellious spark? Up next, we'll see a musical visionary known for his audacity. Continuing our countdown, Frank Zappa is celebrated as a visionary musician with an eclectic style. He blended rock, jazz, and classical influences, creating music that defied easy categorization. Zappa's fearless experimentation and satirical edge challenged censorship and social norms, leaving a lasting impact on countless musicians. Frank Zappa did not shy away from controversy. He openly criticized censorship and spoke against the strict moral standards imposed on rock music. His lyrics and compositions frequently contained provocative themes that challenged societal norms, drawing criticism from conservative groups. Due to his uncompromising views and experimental style, Zappa faced significant censorship. Watchdog organizations scrutinized his albums, and he became a vocal opponent of the PMRC hearings in the 1980s, which sought to regulate music content. Several retail chains in the Midwest refused to stock his records, citing concerns about morally objectionable content. In the face of these challenges, Frank Zappa stayed dedicated to his art, influencing countless musicians and leaving a lasting legacy as an innovative and rebellious force in music. Frank Zappa's music left many speechless. Which of his daring compositions or moments still stand out to you? Shifting the spotlight to the Rolling Stones, this iconic band embodies rock and roll defiance. Their rebellious spirit and electrifying performances pushed musical boundaries, with gritty riffs and charismatic energy that redefined mainstream music while constantly courting controversy. Their bold image and provocative lyrics often landed them in hot water. Songs like Brown Sugar and Stray Cat Blues stirred controversy due to their explicit content and themes that some deemed offensive. The band's unapologetic approach to topics like race, sexuality, and rebellion didn't sit well with conservative groups and radio stations. In several regions, their music faced bans, and their concerts were met with protests from those who viewed their performances as promoting immoral behavior. In Australia, several states imposed restrictions on their tours, citing concerns over their explicit nature of their performances. Additionally, in the UK, certain songs were banned from radio play due to their controversial lyrics. The backlash only served to amplify the Rolling Stones' defiance and legendary status. The censorship they encountered reinforced their image as the bad boys of rock, attracting even more fans who admired their fearless expression. The Rolling Stones turned controversy into rock and roll anthems. Next, we honor a legend whose messages echoed globally. Honoring a legend, Bob Marley's voice transcended boundaries with powerful messages of peace and resistance. His heartfelt lyrics on unity, social justice, and freedom resonated worldwide, even as his advocacy for controversial causes sparked significant backlash and censorship. His strong association with Rastafarianism and advocacy of marijuana use sparked controversy. In several countries, authorities viewed his messages as politically charged and too radical. This led to bans on his music and protests against his performances, especially during the height of the Cold War when political tensions were high. In some conservative Caribbean nations, government leaders denounced his lyrics, and official radio stations refused to play tracks seen as subversive. Which of his songs or performances continues to inspire you, and why? Comment below. Stepping into the soulful world, Janis Joplin redefined blues rock with her powerhouse voice and raw emotion. Her intense, passionate performances broke conservative molds, as she candidly embraced her wild side, addiction struggles, and unapologetic approach to love and life. Janis openly embraced her wild side, both on and off stage. Her candid discussions about her struggles with addiction and her unapologetic approach to love and life were groundbreaking. Songs like Piece of My Heart and Cry Baby showed not only her vocal talent, but also her boldness that was rare for female artists then. In several major cities, her concerts were canceled by venue owners, concerned about her unpredictable performances. Some radio stations blacklisted her music, fearing it promoted a rebellious and unrestrained image. We're closing in on the pinnacle of our list. Stay to the end to know who will crown the most controversial band singer of the 70s. Adopting mystical melodies, Stevie Nicks charmed people with her unique voice and stage presence. As an icon in Fleetwood Mac and a solo artist, her haunting storytelling and otherworldly image set her apart, even as it sparked controversy and challenged conventional norms. Stevie's mystical image, characterized by flowing dresses and romantic, otherworldly persona, sparked controversy. Some critics and conservative listeners were uneasy with her open display of vulnerability and the themes of independence and mysticism in her music. In the United States, certain radio stations limited the airplay of her songs that are on mystical and introspective themes, labeling them as too obscure for mainstream audiences. Additionally, some conservative community groups petitioned to ban her concerts in smaller towns, fearing that her ethereal performances would encourage unorthodox behaviors among youth. Stevie Nicks' mystical presence is unforgettable. Let's see who's the next icon. With unfiltered storytelling, Lou Reed confronted life's darker sides through his groundbreaking music. A key figure in the Velvet Underground and beyond, his fearless lyrics on sexuality, urban struggles, and addiction often defied taboos, attracting both devoted followers and critics. Lou Reed's frank approach to subjects that many found taboo often led to censorship. His unflinching portrayal of life's darker sides drew criticism from conservative groups and sometimes resulted in limited radio play and concert restrictions. In multiple U.S. states, local officials labeled his shows inappropriate, prompting cancellations, and some networks refused to air his interviews. Despite facing such pushbacks, Reed's honesty and innovative style earned him a devoted following and cemented his influence on rock music. Lou Reed spoke truths that shocked society. Time to see who's going to break more taboos up ahead. In a blaze of theatrical spectacle, Kiss redefined live rock performance. Their striking makeup, costumes, and explosive shows created a mesmerizing experience that pushed boundaries. This boldness stirred controversy, but also forged a massive fan base and a lasting influence on performance art. Kiss's bold image and graphic content often stirred controversy. Their songs and performances featured themes of rebellion and fantasy, which some conservative groups found provocative and unsuitable for younger audiences. This led to bans on certain live shows and restrictions on their music in some venues, as well as criticism in the media. Several city councils in the U.S. voted to deny them permits, fearing excessive noise and indecent themes, while parent organizations campaigned against their concerts. What lessons can we take from their daring theatrics? A dramatic presence on stage, Meat Loaf captivated audiences with his theatrical style and powerful voice. His epic album, Bat Outta Hell, combined rock with storytelling flair, and though his explicit lyrics sparked controversy, his artistry resonated deeply with fans around the world. His most famous work, the album Bat Outta Hell, featured epic tracks like Paradise by the Dashboard Light that combined rock with a theatrical flair. The explicit lyrics and passionate delivery of these songs stirred controversy, leading some radio stations to ban his music for its provocative content and themes of teenage romance and sexuality. In a few conservative markets, local broadcasters refused to air his tracks, citing fears of promoting immoral behavior among youth. As we near the climax of our countdown, The most iconic figure is about to be revealed. Stay tuned for the grand finale at the end. Tom Petty. Heartland rock icon Tom Petty spoke truths through his music, blending genuine storytelling with a steadfast commitment to his craft. His songs about everyday struggles connected deeply with listeners, even as he navigated conflicts over creative control and censorship issues. Tom Petty often found himself at odds with record labels and broadcasters due to his stance on creative control and the candid nature of his lyrics. Tracks like I Won't Back Down and Refugee carried messages of defiance and independence, which sometimes drew criticism from those uncomfortable with his uncompromising spirit. These conflicts occasionally led to limited airplay and censorship efforts, as industry gatekeepers attempted to shape his music to fit more mainstream standards. In certain regions, his song Refugee was restricted from radio play due to its strong anti-establishment message, and some venues hesitated to book his performances, fearing backlash from conservative groups. Through these challenges, Tom Petty stayed true to his vision. His determination not to compromise his artistic integrity earned him a loyal fan base and cemented his reputation as a musician who spoke truth to power. Tom Petty's legacy endures through his timeless music and unwavering dedication to authenticity. Tom Petty stood firm against all odds. Who will take that spirit and roar louder next? Lynyrd Skynyrd. Southern rock legend Lynyrd Skynyrd embodied defiance and tradition. Their raw energy and anthems like Free Bird captured the spirits of the South, celebrating pride and freedom while occasionally stirring controversy with their outspoken regional themes. Lynyrd Skynyrd's music celebrated Southern pride and touched on themes of freedom, working-class struggles, and resistance to authority. However, their outspoken expressions of regional pride sometimes sparked controversy. Critics were wary of certain regional imagery and language that could be seen as politically charged or insensitive, leading to reservations by radio stations and occasional bans in certain areas. In Georgia, local radio stations temporarily banned their songs that emphasized Southern identity, fearing they could incite regional tensions. Additionally, some national media outlets criticized their ban for what they perceived as glorifying outdated Southern stereotypes, resulting in boycotts of their music in more progressive cities. What memories or feelings does Lynyrd Skynyrd's music bring back for you? Elton John. An extraordinary performer known for dazzling piano skills and flamboyant style. Rising to fame in the 1970s with hits like Rocket Man, Elton John's open expression of identity and theatrical flair challenged societal norms, facing criticism while paving the way for future generations. Elton's open expression of his sexuality and his lavish theatrical performances challenged conservative societal norms. His style, both musically and personally, was seen as too provocative by some, leading to controversy and, in some cases, restrictions on his performances and broadcasts. Certain radio stations and venues hesitated to feature his work due to his bold persona and themes that pushed the boundaries of what was considered acceptable at the time. In 1973, a conservative group in Texas protested his concert, leading to its cancellation. Additionally, several radio stations across the Midwest refused to play his tracks, labeling them too flamboyant for their audiences. Faced with criticism, Elton John stayed true to himself. His courage in embracing his identity and his commitment to authentic expression won him admiration worldwide. His impact on music and culture is undeniable, making him not only a chart-topping artist, but also a trailblazer who paved the way for future generations to perform with unapologetic confidence. Elton shone with bold talent. Up next, we will see what surprise comes at the final entry on our list. John Lennon. Ultimately, John Lennon used his music and activism to challenge the world. With songs like Imagine and Give Peace a Chance, he confronted issues of war and inequality head-on, using his influence to advocate for peace and social change, despite facing significant backlash. Lennon's fearless political stance made him a target of controversy. His outspoken views on war and government criticism led to bans on his music and difficulties obtaining visas, especially in the United States during the turbulent 1970s. Authorities perceived his influence as a threat, and his activism sparked debates about freedom of speech and censorship. In particular, U.S. immigration officials monitored his movements closely, attempting to have him deported due to his anti-war protests, fearing he could galvanize public opinion. John Lennon's message of peace continues to inspire. How does his legacy influence your thoughts on activism and music today? If you enjoyed this in-depth swoop into the rebellious side of 70s music, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more fascinating journeys through America's past. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more stories that shaped our history.